Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Jade, and this is How to App on iOS. Boom. And today, my special guest is Katie Underwood. She is a talented vocalist. She's been a part of a groundbreaking band called Bardot, and she is a sound healer. And this is one of her tracks called Beautiful.
Tell you you've been on my mind, 'cause we used to spend so much time together. Now it seems that was just a dream, and now you left me behind. You know we used to be friends. I never thought it would come to an end, and now your heart's been led astray. So much I wanna say, I can't stop this crazy feeling. You are the reason. Oh baby, come back to me. Now won't you come back to me? Yeah, you're beautiful. It's your love that I desire. My heart is on fire. Oh baby, come back to me. Yeah, you're beautiful, beautiful. Curse the day you ever fell in love. Still I pray to the gods above that you will remember me, and we could be how we used to be. And even though I know you may never sway my way, I won't let go. Baby, we could be so real. Let me tell you how I feel. I can't stop this crazy feeling, and you are the reason. Oh baby, come back to me. Now won't you come back to me? Yeah, beautiful. It's your love that I desire. My heart is on fire. Oh baby, come back to me. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, so beautiful.
Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Jade and this is How to App on iOS, and I hope you're all doing well out there. Are you ready for a killer interview? I am. Can't wait to have this guest on. Super cool, super talented, super healing powers. And today's show is Sponsored by our good friends at DistroKid. You can get your music released through DistroKid on all of the major streaming services like Apple and Spotify and Amazon, and the list goes on for the mere cost of $22.99 a year. And if you use my code that is over there in the corner, distrokid.com/VIP/Jade Starr, you will get 7% off your first year. I want to thank DistroKid for sponsoring the show, and a bit further in the show you'll hear a little bit more about them. Okie dokie. Well, this artist was, I don't know, when I was young, I grew up watching television and was like, oh my God, who is this band? But way before, you know, American Idol and all this stuff, there was this show here in Australia called Pop Stars. And this was like the first major like talent contest thing, like all these major shows. And it was super groundbreaking. And there was this band called Bardot, full of these beautiful women who won the first episode. And I was obsessed with this show totally. And it turns out after she and the rest of the girls won this competition, she went on to continue singing and creating amazing music and winning awards and all this kind of stuff. And then moved on to becoming a musical healer. And I was lucky enough to get healed by this amazing person when I was incredibly sick. Her name is Katie Underwood. She is incredible, and she is joining me today on the show, and I'm super excited. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Katie Underwood. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Super excited, as you can tell, to have you on. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. It's very kind of you. The last time we met was in a hospital in Sunshine. A good friend of both of ours reached out to you and said that there was a friend who was in need, and you contacted me, I think it was. I forget exactly how, but you came into the hospital and gave me a healing session, and the nurses, they actually found a room to put me in because I think they were more excited than anything else just to get your autograph and stuff. And you came in and we had this experience that was like nothing I have ever experienced again since. It was utterly incredible. And I want to thank you first for that. What do you remember of that? Do you remember that day when you came in?
Yeah. I think back then you had like rosy pink, reddish hair. And yeah.
I sure did.
Very tall. And yeah, I do remember the room that you were in, and I was very early on in my sound healing journey then, and was keen to, just help, I suppose. I hadn't done a lot of off-site sessions, and I hadn't seen that many people in hospital settings. So I guess it was a combination of that opportunity to see what I could do for someone in that setting, but also because, I was close friends with our mutual friend at that time. And, you know, a friend of a friend is a friend of mine. So that's sort of how that went.
I was blown away.
I'm glad that you have such fond memories of that.
I remember sitting in that room they provided for us, and you put all those bowls around. I closed my eyes and you were, ringing these amazing bowls and singing. And I had my eyes closed and I was harmonizing with you and crying my eyes out. And by the end, I think we were both crying. It was nuts. It was like nothing. Because at that time, I had lost all hope. I'd been in that hospital for a month, and they were telling me it's not looking good because I was constantly bleeding. I had bruises all over me. This thing called ITP. I'd never heard of what it was. I just got it one night. And then after you came and saw me, they put me in for an operation and said, we're going to take out your spleen. And they gave me like a 7% chance of surviving. It was really scary. I came through. They were hoping that it was going to be all right. And I left. And unfortunately, I was one of the small percentage of people who, after they take the spleen, I still have the condition. So it is what it is. But It doesn't matter because, there are people far worse off, and I've learned to live with what it is and made the best of it and just become bigger and better than ever before. So, it still is one of the greatest things I've ever experienced. And I've been in pagan communities and done all these full-on things, drum healing and all this, but that was something that was very real. So thank you so much
Welcome.
for that. Let me hit you with the first question I ask everybody who comes on the show. Katie Underwood, what does music mean to you?
Music is my first language. I realized that a few years ago, and people often ask me, oh, do you speak another language? I'm like, no, I don't. But then I think about it. I was singing before I was speaking. So what does music mean to me? It's such an essential part of who I am, how I communicate, how I connect with energy, with my own intuition, with other people. And then, of course, there's all the ways that music affects me and affects us in general. It can be joyful. It can keep you company when you're sad. It can activate you when you need extra energy. So, yeah, it's music to me is like the air that I breathe. I can't imagine not having it.
Can't agree more. It feels like it's saved me so many times. Yeah. At the lowest point, there's just always music. It's just it's that first rung up the ladder. It just always feels like that. When you were a kid, do you remember the music that was played in your household by your parents? And did any of this resonate with you? Was any of it that you hated? Do you still listen to any of it? If you do.
So I was born in 75, so grew up at the end of the soul disco era. My mother was an avid dancer, loved to go out to clubs and whatnot. So, lots of 70s soul, and then early 80s pop was often being blasted through our house. Dad didn't really get much of a chance at the stereo, but when he did, his taste was very different. So he liked John Denver, which my mother hated, but it gave me a different, it expanded my listening repertoire. And then, additionally, we'd occasionally have classical music, but mostly it was soul, disco, funk, and a bit of John Denver. They were the formative years. Do I listen to that stuff now? Not so much, although I do have a couple of key favorites from that one. I think Dad's favorite song was Annie's Song by John Denver, and that's still kind of a soft favorite of mine. So very different from any of the music that I've released or been associated with, but yeah, they were the formative years.
Yeah, I'm the same. I grew up in a household. My mum listened to disco, Olivia Newton-John, all that stuff, but I don't listen. I do listen to a lot of Libby, I have to admit. I'm a bit addicted to Olivia Newton-John. Don't tell anybody. The whole world's the hearing now. Do you remember the first album that was given to you as a gift and the first one you bought with little Katie Underwood's pocket money?
Oh, I don't remember the first one I was given.
Right.
I do remember the first one that I bought. It was Wham! The Final on vinyl. Yes. Followed very closely, I think, by the In Excess Kick album.
Of course.
So that was, I do remember that. But actually, speaking of albums, one of the album covers I think that was most influential for me was it wasn't Annie Lennox. She was with Eurythmics then. And do you remember the album cover where she was wearing the black leather eye mask with this kind of vibe? Like, so that iconic image of Annie Lennox on the cover of this Eurythmics album, I think was so deeply ingrained in my mind. It's sort of no surprise that then, 10 or 15 years later when I started the pop band, I had a very similar look. I think I just always loved that striking look of Annie Lennox in the 80s. So
you've had a lot of looks over your musical career, and all of them, no matter what, are very striking. Red hair, short hair. Is this
blue for a while? Blue was fun.
Yeah. Is this a conscious thing? Like, how do you decide a new look for Katie Underwood?
Oh, look, my main look for about 20 years was as a redhead, and that happened. So I'm naturally brunette. And then at 14, we had a family friend. She was doing a hairdressing apprenticeship, and I had long brown hair at the time. And she said, I need a hair model for one of my next classes, would you be willing to cut your hair short and dye it red? And I said, yes, I would. And that was the look that I had for then the next 20 years. And varying lengths of hair, but red. I loved the vibrancy of it. I think I felt like that. I identified as a redhead internally, and so it felt very real for me. And then in the last, I guess, 10 or so years, I switched to blonde. Again, I suppose it was different for multiple reasons that I probably don't even have time to get into in the next few hours. I no longer resonated with that redhead. I think I associate the redheaded version of me as the performer.
Right.
And although I'm still heavily involved with music in a different way, I don't perform anymore. It's a channel, so it's a different thing. So for me, the shift to blonde also represented my personal and spiritual growth, if I'm not getting too woo-woo too quick.
No. Makes sense.
And so now that feels aligned for me. But yeah, in between all of that, I've done black and I've done blue and I've done, I don't know, what other colours? Every spectrum of red, definitely.
It's what we do as women.
Green, I think green's the only colour I never was tempted to do. I've done purple.
Green's not good for a green screen.
No. So, yeah, but, it's fun. It always grows back. That's always my theory with hair. Like, I'll just do what you want because it'll grow back. So, yeah.
When we met, I was a redhead. I was working in the sex industry, and that's why I did it. It was all extensions and stuff because, hey, red, fire, guys, all that stuff. These days, I have dreadlocks. Why? Because I can't be bothered combing my hair. It's easy.
Well, if I have short hair, I can't be bothered styling my hair, so I just keep it short.
Exactly. Do you remember your first gig? Speaking of gigs, not performing anymore.
Oh, wow. First gig. Let me see. That must have been, so I moved to Melbourne. It would have been pre-Bardot, with a jazz band. I was mentored by a guy called Charlie Rook in Melbourne, and we started to get some regular jazz gigs. So I think it was at a hotel in Richmond somewhere. Can't remember the name of it.
Like and then the shortly Richmond after Club.
They offered us a residency. Yeah, I'm not sure. But as far as performances go, I mean, my very first, performance, I was 11.
Oh.
And I was with my school choir. Nice. And I was doing a solo performance in front of 2,000 people at the Adelaide Festival Theatre.
Wow.
So if you're talking about very first ever proper gig, that was it. I was terrified. But, but I made it work.
Nice. Talking of school, did your school, gather you grew up in Adelaide, so did your school offer music lessons? And the question I love hearing from everybody, were you forced to learn the recorder?
Oh, 100%. Wasn't everybody? The recorder was painful. But my musical journey started before school. So when I was 6, my parents started me on piano lessons, and then through school, recorder, painfully. Tried my hand at violin, and after a year, I was so bad that my parents actually said, we think that the violin is not the instrument for you.
It's hard.
They humbly asked me to stop playing violin, which I did. And then I discovered singing, or I should say one of my teachers at school felt like I had a decent voice, and so she got me to audition for this, solo choir thing. Which I then did. And from there, got invited to join 3 other larger extracurricular schools, so then choirs, and then stayed with the Adelaide Girls Choir for about 5 years. But at school, I then picked up clarinet, played that badly for about 3 years. But my clarinet teacher was wild. I was a terrible student. I never practiced, and he knew that, and he didn't give me a hard time. But he was a professional musician as well as a teacher, so he was really cool. And he had, so if you don't know how clarinets fit together, for people that don't know, it comes together in 3 separate pieces, and he had them in 6 different colours, so all the primary colours, like bright red, blue, green, yellow, a black and a white one, and he would just mix and match them and put together this multicolored, crazy looking clarinet. And he goes, all right, let's just, I know you haven't rehearsed or haven't practiced, but let's just play something.
Nice.
So I have fond memories of him. Yeah, that was my school-related music education.
It helps having a good music teacher. I've had many people on here. Now, many people have said who I've interviewed have always been in some kind of choir, so it's something. But a lot of people I know have had some terrible had some terrible piano teachers and stuff, getting hit with the rulers and stuff. I remember my first singing teacher, the first time I met her at school, she emptied a bin over my head because she thought she thought she was this biker chick. She thought I was annoying the class and stuff, and she walked over, made an example, put the bin over my head. I called her names. I got suspended. But by the end of the year, I was best friends with her because we were so against the system. She was a biker. I was a metalhead. Nobody else in us. But it's funny, and because we were so rebellious, but she was one of the best teachers because she was tough, but in a loving way. So it's good to have teachers, I think, that you like.
Yeah, it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
My first piano teacher, and we were with her for about 8 years, she used to come to our home, and when I was really young, it was okay. And then towards the end, you'd be doing your lesson, and she's sitting there putting her makeup on. And it's like, are you even here? Like, what is... She just was totally disinterested. And we fed back that info to my folks, and they're like, we think we need to find you a new teacher. And then my second piano teacher was this old couple, Owen and Hilda Standen. There you go. I even remember their names.
Wow.
And they were in their 80s. They've been lifelong musicians. She was wheelchair bound, but so had some physical issues, but still very sharp, very alert. And she taught violin and music theory. And he was this very charming, that era of very old, where it's sort of everything's a wink and a smile. It's that sort of charming, I don't know, it was so weird. He was in his 80s. You wouldn't say he was flirting, but it was just that, I don't know, friendly sort of banter. And he was incredible. And their home, they weren't hoarders. Well, they were hoarders, but they were organized hoarders. So if you can imagine a regular home, that has various rooms in it, in every single room, there were just piles and piles and piles and piles of music sheets.
Wow.
But just all of it was, printed music.
Yep.
And at first glance, you'd think these people have a problem. But once a year on your birthday, he would go in and he would go, now, what am I going to give you? And he'd walk into a certain room and go down the pot. He knew exactly where everything was, and he would pull out this sheet of music, goes, here you go. This is going to be good for you. So just this bizarre filing system of literally piles and piles of music in every single room, in the kitchen, the lounge, whatever. It was crazy, but it's testament to how dedicated they both were to music. And I learned more from him in those last 2 years than I did from my other teacher in the 8 years prior. So that's the difference, I think, that a really great teacher makes, is that they inspire you to want to learn and to want to be better. And he did. So, yeah, that was good. I have fond memories of them.
Absolutely. That's great. Now, we opened today's show with Beautiful. Now, this was post Pop Stars. We're going to play a song from Bardot in a second. Tell us a little bit about Beautiful, because it was a #1 hit. Yeah, you won an ARIA for it as well, too, didn't you?
We got nominated for the ARIA.
Nominated.
We got picked by, I think it was Kylie Minogue, Can't Get You Out of My Head, was up for the ARIA that year. So it was a tough act to beat.
Being up against Kylie, that's rad.
Yeah, so, Kylie.
Yeah.
So we did get nominated, but I did win an APRA award, which is the Songwriters Award.
APRA award, yeah.
So that was a good achievement. So Beautiful was a song that I co-wrote with Disco Montego, who were Dennis and Darren Dowlett. I'd worked with them while I was in Bardot, the band prior. And after I left, they got in touch with me about a year later and said, look, we're looking for a female to front our band, our dance band, basically, and are you interested? So I remember one night they got me into their house. They said, we want to play you this track that we want to work on. And I said, we've done the chorus. We've done the musical, bed, the structure of the song. but we want you to contribute and write the verses. And so they play me, this track. I said, okay, play it a couple more times. And I said, all right, okay, cool. I said, yep, I think I can do something to this. They're like, okay, great. Come back tomorrow morning with what you've got. I'm like, oh.
Let's go.
Okay. Like internally just going, but externally I'm like, yeah, cool.
Yeah. Cool as a cucumber.
No worries. Yeah, I can do that. And no word of a lie. So I was in, for people who know Sydney, they were living in Paddington. I then had a 20-minute drive to my friend's house in Marrickville, I think where they were living. And I just kept playing the track in the car. I'd written the first verse on the car ride from there back home. Right. And then the next morning I woke up and I wrote the second verse over coffee. It took about an hour. And by lunchtime, rocked in and they said, right, what have you got? And I sang them down what I'd written and they were really excited. And they're like, that's fantastic. Let's do it. I'm like, okay.
Some of the best stuff is written like that, that last minute, nonchalantly in the car on the way somewhere, like...
Yeah, so look, it was just, I think, the right song at the right time. And, it was great validation for me because prior to that, I knew I was a good vocalist, but I really hadn't had a lot of experience writing. So it was a great opportunity to get to work with them and they were just brilliantly talented. And the song was just received so well in Australia. So
number one for 12 weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah, number one on the club charts for 12 weeks. And then we did actually break into the pop chart at that time, which was not easy to do, still isn't easy to do. So it went very well.
It's a great song. We're going to play a song from Bardot and then come back and talk about Bardot. For those overseas artists, you probably may not have heard of Bardot. Aussie people, we're all just like, yeah. All right, this is Poison by Bardot. We'll be back in a moment. Let's Oge.
One kiss, I will blow your mind. Your desperation makes you feel insane. Fever running high, you will never be the same. Don't you treat me bad, don't you make me sad. Our love could be deep as the ocean. If you can't be true, I got news for you. Just remember I can be poison. Poison. Some people say that I'm hard to tame. They know that trouble is my middle name. Too dangerous, what you want from me? This chemistry in my body. I've got you scared and now you're running blind. Don't make me mad cause you know I won't be kind. Don't you treat me bad, don't you make me sad. I could be deep as the ocean. If you can't be true, I got news for you. Just remember I can be poison. Don't you treat me bad, don't you make me sad. I could be deep as the ocean. If you can't be true, I got news for you. Just remember I can be poison. Don't give empty reasons, baby, cause I don't want your lies. Don't think you can deceive this poison deep inside. Don't you treat me bad, don't you make me sad. Our love could be deep as the ocean. If you can't be true, I got news for you. Just remember I can be poison.
Okay, so that was Poison by Bardot. Unbelievable. Let's talk about Pop Stars. Now, Pop Stars was a television show here in Australia. I think it was 2000 was Pop Stars. It was pretty much, it feels like it was the first of this generation of shows where, you brought people in and then you heard a backstory, and compared to the old days of Potluck with Ernie Segley, a little bit different than that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Pop Stars was the first reality TV show aired in Australia. So even from that point of view, it was a huge shift in TV in our country and potentially globally at that point. Now reality TV is everywhere, but it was very new concept at that point.
It was very exciting, and I remember watching that first season very, very closely and was addicted to the whole thing. What was it like? Because, I mean, I've auditioned for shows like Big Brother and stuff. I used to work for Endemol in my past and know the process can be pretty full, especially Big Brother. They put you through psychiatric evaluation to find out what buttons to press because they want to screw your brain up on that show. Yeah. That's why I didn't end up going on it in the end. But what was the process to go through that whole show back then? Was it tough? How'd you get into it?
Yeah, so for me, it was actually the first audition I'd ever been to.
Right.
So that whole concept was totally new. So there were several rounds before we got to the final round. So I remember at the first round, they were doing auditions all over Australia, and in each state, I think it attracted 2,000 or 3,000 girls who were basically told that we were auditioning for Australia's version of the Spice Girls. So I knew that part of the audition process was vocal, but that the other part would be my impact.
Right.
Because pop stars, by default, have that high visual impact concept. If you understand what pop music is, it is partly that. It's, in a lot of cases, it's almost all of that and very little about the voice. So I decided to be as impactful as possible and wore my most outrageous outfits and jackets and thought, this is the only way I'm going to cut through in the initial phases. And I was right. My first couple of rounds, really my voice was not up to par. Nerves got to me. I wasn't singing my best, but I was looking the part. And so I think I partly got through the first few stages from there. And then they started to get us to do like dance auditions and various other things. I'm a great dancer, so that wasn't a problem. And weirdly for me, as I went through the audition process, I got more and more comfortable with it, which was sort of the opposite of most other girls that were going through. Like they would start relaxed and then get more and more tense as they got, whittled down from 2,000 to 200 to 25 to then the final 10. So I think looking back, the process for me was all joy because, and this will sound weird, I didn't want to get into the band because I hate pop music mostly. I mean, I like some, but mostly I'm not really into pop and never have been. So I wasn't trying to get into the band. I'd gone basically on a dare from a friend who said, look, you've got a voice, you're cool, like you should just audition for this thing. And I remember saying to my friend Nikki, why would I want to audition for a pop band, Nikki? I said, I don't even like pop. She goes, I know, but it'll be good. And it could be amazing. I'm like, all right. So, I went through the audition process. I'm not even kidding with you. And then I found out I made it down to the final, I think it was the final 25.
Yeah.
And that I was getting a trip to Sydney. Ooh. And I'd never been to Sydney.
Yay.
And I'm like, yeah, all right. Trip to Sydney. Katie!
Finally, in Melbourne, another former member of the Adelaide Girls Choir.
Hello.
Katie Underwood.
My mum. Hi, Mum. Hi, Jade.
Katie knows she came very close to being dropped at the first audition.
Yes. Oh, gosh, I tell you what, this has been the hardest week, trying to find 5 girls out of these 10. But anyway, cut a long story short, we have made our decision.
Yeah.
And, as tough as it was, I want to give you this.
Oh, it's an opening thing. Okay. Is this like the winner is kind of thing?
Kind of.
What's in here?
ticket to Sydney.
There is.
Welcome to the group.
I'm very happy about this. I really am. Good. Excellent. Can we bust open that bottle?
You bought it.
Oh, my hands are shaking. Fantastic. Thanks. I don't know what else to say.
Were you expecting it?
No, I mean, all week it's just been 50-50 chance. Don't get your hopes up, you know, plan but don't plan, and it's just been all over the place. And I really sort of sitting here all day going, oh, I don't get it, it's cool, I've got a life, I can just go back to doing what I was doing, and now I'm not going to be doing that.
No,
so
your life's about to change.
It's fantastic. I'm really excited. Really excited. Yeah, we have to do a little toast. All right. My God. To you. To you. Yes. It'll do. Katie, I can't believe it. I know. I'm in shock. It's so not sunking in. Give me a couple. My dad, Larry. World, Larry.
Oh, that's excellent.
Good. To me. To you for having me.
Cheers.
There you go.
You know, that's what I was excited about. And I'm like, oh, well, you know, like if I've got nothing else out of this, I've got a trip to Sydney. Like, this is pretty cool. And then there were 4 days of auditions when we were up there. And each day, you know, a few people got let go and it got closer and closer to the final 10. And every day I'm like, well, you know, I'm here. I've got what I wanted. I don't need to get into the band. But then all these very talented people were getting really, really nervous. And then that was affecting their ability to sing and to dance and present. And they just kept getting voted out and voted out. And, you know, I'm sort of like looking at flies drop around me going, shit, I think I might actually get into this thing. Yeah, and I did. So that was weird. I'm like, okay, so much for like just giving auditioning a go. First ever audition, I get into this band and then I'm with them for a year and a half.
And then you become like this queen of pop music that you hate.
Well, I mean, look, hate's a strong word.
It is a strong word.
It's not, you know, if people ask me what's your favourite genre of music, pop is not the first word that comes out of my mouth, I can tell you.
So the way the show works, folks, if you don't know, so they have all these amazing artists, they bring them right down and then form an all-girl band at the end, and Bardot was formed. Now, when you win, this is the one thing I despise about these shows, you know. Like I watch American Idol, Australian Idol when that was a thing, and all the way through the show, all the way through the series, they're going, that's great, but we're not seeing the real you. But next week we're going to give you another song sung by somebody else, but we still want you out of that song. And then finally by the end of American Idol, they're like, yes, that's it. We're hearing the real you, and you win. Now we're going to give you an album written by somebody else.
Yeah,
doesn't make sense. So was that the case with the Bardot? So was it all predetermined afterwards when they handed you the win?
Yeah, look, it had to be because it was such a fast turnaround. So, you know, we got into the band and immediately upon arriving in Sydney, we had to start recording and turn this whole juggernaut around in the space of a couple of months. So, yeah, the first album, the songs had already been pre-selected. Well, there was a short list, I think, of about 20. And so we did get to choose our favourite 12.
That's cool.
From, I think, the final 25. So we did have some input into the final songs. There were some songs that were not negotiable, that were part of, you know, people had done deals. They're like, well, I'll come in and produce the album, but you have to include my song.
Right.
So the second single, for instance, which was called I Should Have Never Let You Go, was written by Tommy Farragher, who was the American producer they flew over to co-produce the album. So that was kind of the deal there. But there were a few other things that we could flex on. But yeah, it was just a juggernaut. From the time we got in, it was just, we were in the studio every day, we were working it out every day, and then it was dance rehearsals, and then it was, you know, learning choreography, and all building up to having to perform our first full-blown live show at the Sydney State Theatre, I think it was.
Holy shit.
And that was, so when the show aired, we were already kind of ahead. Like, you know, we'd already been filming you know, a few months prior. But by the time it got to the end of the actual series, we were basically filming in real time.
Yep.
So by the time you got to the State Theatre, like it had just happened that week.
Right.
So it was very fresh. So kind of reality caught up in a time capsule. So yeah, I think for the most part it was kind of cool, but I remember on the actual day of that show, and I was so nervous, and we were all so nervous. And when the cameras were trying to get in my face that day, that was the only time they saw the real me. I started to get pissed off. I'm like, do you not understand we have an actual show to do here? Like, I don't have time for this. And the producer's like, well, this is what it is. So, we need you to come and do a thing. And I'm like, trying to do my makeup and get in my outfits. So that was the only time it was really annoying. But otherwise, you kind of forget about the cameras, I think, after a while. And people think that's weird. Like, how can you possibly? But you do. And you would know that from your experience to a point. But, yeah, it is weird how you can get used to just having cameras around and it becomes – you just start tuning it out.
Yeah.
Because you have to.
Totally.
Yeah.
I understand it. Absolutely.
It was very weird. It was a very weird, very surreal, very intense experience. I'm glad that I had it, but I wouldn't want to do it again.
Like, I'm interested in this kind of stuff. Like, how do you prepare for this kind of stuff? How does your mental state deal with all of, like, did they provide you with people to like talk to with this stuff? Is there any kind of mental health checks during this back then compared to today? In Big Brother, they send in a mental health practitioner like 3 times a week on the show,
Look, they didn't have anyone officially looking after our mental health, but they did give us kind of I suppose, a support person. And she was one of our choreographers, Anna, but she was also, I guess, like a mother figure, big sister figure. And so she was around. But as far as, official psychological supports, no, that wasn't even a thing then. Yeah, and I know that it impacted various members of the band in different ways.
Yep.
But yeah, I think a few of the girls had issues with food and eating, throughout, as many young women do. For me, it was probably, binge drinking when I wasn't working. That was probably how it came out for me. Yeah, and then the whole fame thing is such a strange beast. I assume that when most people get famous, it happens slowly. And so you get time to adjust.
Yeah.
But I went from being no one to all of a sudden, literally overnight, the public thinks that you're a celebrity just because you're on TV. And, meanwhile, nothing's changed at all in my sense of self. Other than now I'm walking down the street and you've got people running up to you, screaming, hyperventilating, crying with excitement, nerves, and I'm standing there like, what the fuck is this?
You can swear on here. We're good.
Okay, right. I wasn't sure.
No.
It was actually really disturbing for me because for me, I've never reacted that way to anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole concept of just being so overcome in itself was weird. And then have it be directed at me, and I'm like, I'm just Katie from Adelaide. What is this? But this was the thing, and this is the only way that the record company were able to prepare us. And they said, the power of television cannot be overstated. It's when people see your head on TV, you will be an overnight, sensation. And we're like, I don't think so. But yeah, that was the weirdest part of it, and how bizarre people behave when they want to get your autograph or they think you're this person. It's weird. Fame is weird.
What's the weirdest weirdo that came up to you wanting something weird? That's a lot of weirdness there.
It was more a situation. I remember I was walking across a bridge, like just an ordinary pedestrian bridge in Sydney. Because I had bright red hair, I was one of the most easily spottable members of the band. And so suddenly I got rushed by a group of teens and they were having autographs. And then, a crowd starts to form, and then there's another few people. And so you know, you've got someone here holding a city. Can you sign this? And another person over here going, trying to get a photo with you. And then meanwhile, the weirdness was then there was this mother and young child standing in front of me. And I remember hearing, so I've got someone on this side, someone on this side. I'm trying to smile, going, and heard her say and literally throw her child in front of me like I was some sort of inanimate monument. And she goes, just go quickly while I grab the picture. So not even engaging with me, like not at all.
Wow. It
was just weird. It was like being treated like the I don't know, Arc de Triomphe or the what's the pointy thing in Paris? I'm trying to think of Eiffel Tower, where you just stand in front of the monitor. You just stand there and I'll take the. So this desperation of I have to get this right now. That was I didn't like that at all. It felt very weird. Because it's dehumanizing, you know, you're no longer even a person. You're just this object that they need proof that they've seen or signed or, So I don't know. Some people probably like it a lot more, but I did not. And, happy not to be famous anymore.
Let's agree. People are fucking weird.
People are fucking weird, And,
So you're in Bardot till 2001. The band, breaks up, ends. I can't remember how. I don't know if you want to share that. I don't really.
Oh, look, I left first, and they went as a foursome, and then they lasted another year, and then they broke up. But Belinda Chappell wrote a whole book about her experience with that. But look, I think pop bands by default are only ever around for a short time. It's hard to make it last.
Yep.
But I think that the internal personality clashes got the best of them, and the schedule was grueling, and I think just it was only ever going to last a certain amount of time, which is a shame because I felt like their second album was really, really good. But I left because I got an opportunity to do something more musically challenging, and that was get into musical theatre. So somebody came along and waved a big fat carrot in front of me and said, "Hey, do you want to be in a pop band for the rest of your life, or would you like to go do something real?" And I'm like,
yes, please. But you did go on to make more music by yourself. You released a track called Danger.
Yeah.
And, you know, this one reached #1, didn't it? Did it reach #1?
No.
Or
We might have got, I think we got #1 on the dance chart.
Oh, was it APRA charts? Or that was Be Together, maybe I'm thinking of.
Oh, Be Together hit #1.
Hit #1.
So Danger was the first track off what was supposed to be an entire pop album.
Right.
But then I suffered the fate that a lot of musicians suffer, which is that my record label decided to dissolve while we were working on the second single, and basically just shut up shop and disappeared and dropped me and various other artists and a whole bunch of staff. And it's just like, all right, so the last year I've just spent putting into that a whole album's worth of work, and I'd travelled all around the globe, but travelled to Sweden, LA, New York, London, writing with co-writers around the world to just come back and go, all right, so now I've got all these songs and no deal and no label and so, but it's a story as old as time, and for every album that makes the light of day, there's another 100 that get shelved, get lost, underfunded, don't get heard, and that's just the nature of the game.
The music industry. If I were to play one of either song, Danger or Be Together, which one would you prefer me play on the show?
Ooh, you can play Danger. I got nominated for an APRA for that one as well, and that was that was actually based on real life experiences that I had while touring with Disco Montego, so which is a whole other story. But Danger's good, and the clip's good.
All right, well, we're going to play that right now, folks. This is Danger. Let's oge.
What would you do if a man came up to you and offered you the world? Would you slap him in the face, tell him get out of this place? I don't think so. It gets so hard when you're not there. I can hardly contain myself. Get tired of saying no, just wanna let go and maybe say yes. I'm in danger, danger. it's just a man thing, that I don't have feelings. Well, guess again. Finding strangers in the night, someone to hold me tight. Yeah, I'm dreaming. It gets so hard when you're not there. I can hardly contain myself. I get tired of saying no, just wanna let go and maybe say yes. I'm in danger of losing myself to somebody else. I'm in dangerous territory. Quick, honey, hurry, come on. I'm in danger of losing myself to somebody else. I'm in dangerous territory. Quick, honey, hurry, hold me. Hurry, baby, hurry home. Hurry, baby, hurry home. Hurry, baby, hurry home. Hurry, baby, hurry home. I've tried to be good and I've tried to be pure. Sometimes I'm just not sure anymore. I've tried to hold out and just think of you. Sometimes I don't know what to do, 'cause I'm in danger of losing myself to somebody else. I'm in dangerous territory. Yeah, I'm in danger of losing myself to somebody else. I'm in dangerous territory. Quick, honey, hurry, I'm in danger of losing myself to somebody else. I'm in dangerous territory. Oh, won't you save me?
Okay, that was Danger by Katie Underwood. Let's come back and find out a little bit more, because this is, I don't know the exact time that you moved into healing and this new age woo-woo, as people call it these days. Look, as I said, I've been a part of pagan groups and been a part of big festivals where Morrigan and all these things, that I had experiences that were way beyond people's comprehension. I can't talk about them because people would think I'm nuts. But I had these things, so I'm pretty open to a lot of stuff. And as we mentioned at the start of the show, you came out and gave me this amazing Tibetan singing bowl healing, and it absolutely changed the way things were going. What got you into this, and what is it exactly you do? And tell us about your business and all of that.
Sure. So 2010, I started studying remedial massage. I'd made a decision to detox my life, to move out of being a performer musically and to move into healing modalities. So I'd always been interested in helping people as a kid, and I was good with massage. So I started with my massage certification and then moved into adding Reiki, which is a form of energy healing, mainly because my first job as a massage therapist was working in a drug and alcohol recovery centre, and I enjoyed being a part of that process for people because I'd been through that myself, but found that some clients didn't respond, or more to the point, were quite averse to that, skin-to-skin touch.
Yep.
If you've had trauma or other issues, that was not relaxing for them. And it was at that time I'm like, I need a different way to reach these people. And so Reiki, being a form of energy healing that you do fully clothed, and there doesn't even have to be any physical contact, although I do prefer having that. So did massage and Reiki for quite a while. And then another couple of years, again, realized, okay, I'm doing a massage on this person or a session, but people didn't know how to breathe. Like I don't know, someone's lying on your table and they're just not relaxing. And half my session I would spend going, and we're exhaling and breathing out. And so again, that sort of triggered another thought, like, okay, how do I help people breathe? People don't even know how to breathe. And so, breathing well is sort of underpins almost every form of meditation that there is. So I then thought, all right, well, I'll go and do meditation teacher training and learn how to teach people how to breathe and how to meditate. So by that point, I had a few bows. I had, massage, Reiki, and meditation. And then my own personal spiritual journey led me to be guided to learning more about sound healing. And that was 2015. So it's been 10 years now. My very first major teacher was actually an American man called Jonathan Goldman, who was one of the early pioneers in the late 70s, 80s, wrote a book called Healing Sounds. Of course, sound healing as a concept is thousands and thousands of years old. Indigenous cultures all around the world use sound to heal in various ways. But the modern resurgence of it, I think, started to bubble up in the 70s and 80s. And now, going to a sound bath is about as common as a yoga class, which is wonderful. But yeah, that's evolved over time. So it was wonderful to train with Jonathan Goldman. We're also blessed here in Melbourne to have Lama Tenda, who's a Tibetan Buddhist monk. So he teaches traditional Tibetan sound healing, which is the Tibetan bowls that I would have been working with, and then various other teachers along the way. So my knowledge and work and connection to sound healing has continued to increase and expand over the last 10 years, quite a lot since I saw you in that session. Yeah. Did I answer the question? Once I start talking, then I forget. Where do we start?
I just want to hear what it's all about, what you're doing. I find it incredibly fascinating because, the first question I ask everybody on here is, what does music mean to you? And everybody pretty much says, it's my life. It's everything to me. Yeah. And when I first heard about musical healing, it just made sense because we heal by listening to sad songs when we're down. Happy songs make us joyful. It's already doing it. Like we're naturally listening to this stuff. And you have people like Rick Beato on YouTube questioning, like, are young people getting what we used to out of music and stuff like that? And I sometimes sit there and go, listen, boomer, relax. I'm sure kids are still getting the same thing from music. They're just listening to it in a different way. Just relax, man. All right? Yeah. So it still resonates with us. Maybe people don't listen to the whole album from back to finish and they consume it in smaller pieces, but I'm still sure it does something. It changes our brain waves.
Well, that is a fact, and it can do that. I think one of the confusing things when people are talking about sound healing and when you don't really understand the different ways that it can work, it's easy to confuse and go, well, how do sound vibrations heal the physical body? But for me to explain it better, rather than just assuming, okay, I'm going to, make this tone on this Tibetan bowl and you're just magically healed. Yeah, that's not what's happening. No. Because when we're working with healing, I refer to 4 different bodies that we all have. We have a physical body, we have an emotional body, we have a mental body, and a spiritual body. So we need healing often on all of those levels. So sound healing doesn't necessarily overtly work with the physical body, although sound waves do move through the body and particularly resonate strongly in water and through water. And we have comprised of 80% water. Yep. So you can feel vibrations, not just in your ears, but people feel it through their skin, in their bones, deep
Goosebumps.
In themselves. So that's where you can tangibly feel sound working through the body. Now, rather than me trying to tell you, oh, it's magically healing you. No, that's not exactly what's happening. From a meditation point of view, what, let's say, a sound bath experience will help you do is to shift your awareness to the present moment and shift your awareness into your own body so that you're not just running the hamster wheel cogs. You're actually fully present with your own physical system. Now, the human body is a magnificent thing. It has a profound ability to heal itself, but it can't do that if you're not relaxed. So when I'm explaining why does sound healing work, rather than trying to give you some pseudo-scientific explanation, which lots of people will do and go, oh, it's frequency 432 and it's fun.
YouTube.
That shit, let that stuff go. That's not what it's about. I describe it more aptly as it's a guide to help people relax and to meditate, to help them get into that mental state and physical state that they are fully relaxed. And from there, the body is able to generate and self-heal. So that's just the physical body, right?
Yep.
Then you've got the emotional body. Now, perhaps most people don't think about, well, when we have to heal, even if what we're healing is a physical thing that can be measured, part of the healing is always dealing with the emotional body. And how do we heal the emotional body? Well, we need to feel safe first and foremost, and that's a huge thing for a lot of people. And that once we are in that place of emotional safety, only then are we able to connect with the feelings that are there.
Yep.
And then 3, release them, allow ourselves to actually feel them, release them. And this can be, you know, both grief and feelings of joy and love, and both can exist at the same time. But allowing our emotional body to actually process and let go of old stuff can be incredibly freeing. And in fact, they've done lots of scientific studies about people's perceptions of pain, for instance. So if someone has chronic pain, there's solid evidence to show that when you are emotionally stressed, you experience your pain at about 50% higher than you would if you're relaxed.
Yeah, 100%.
I get that feedback in, you know, I've been working with sound healing events for 10 years. I must have seen 10, 20, 30,000 people over my time in various events. And time and time again, I would have people come to an event and they've got chronic pain, serious, like medical conditions, just maybe they're on medications for it, maybe they're not, maybe they're giving up, but people that just are experiencing pain all the time. And they will come to a session, and at the end of the session, they say, oh my God, I'm not in pain. And for anyone that's ever had chronic pain, to get any relief in any way possible for any period of time, let alone an hour or more, it feels miraculous. And so for some people that would last a few hours, maybe it would last a few days, but it would give them a different way of actually relieving their physical pain because emotionally and mentally they're relaxed. So that's the other aspect. And then so we've got emotional body calming the mental body. The other body that I'm working with quite strongly now when I'm using sound, because I combine Vedic mantras and Tibetan mantras with the sound bowls. And that is kind of like a whole next level thing where at the moment, and this has just been in the last 6 months, one of the things that I'm doing a lot with my clients one-on-one is helping them connect with their energy body, their spiritual body, their soul center, right? And our soul doesn't feel pain. Our soul doesn't carry trauma. Our soul is eternal and abundant and limitless, right? That pure essence of us has no pain, no trauma, no confusion, knows exactly who they are, what they're about, and what their purpose is. So if I can connect, and when I do connect my clients with that true sense of self, even for a moment, in that space, they get to experience real peace, real clarity, real safety. And that's often all they need, just that little bit of hope and that reminder of, oh, okay, right. That's actually who I really am. I'm not just a mother. I'm not a sister. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not just a man or a woman or an old person or a young person, you know, or I'm not my disability or I'm not my sexuality or however we define ourselves. I am actually at my core this essence of energy and love and clarity, and connecting people with that just for a second has a profound effect on that person to then go, okay, cool, I get it now. Now I can calmly work through these other things that are very real, that do reside in my physical body, my emotional body. But it was a word that you used early on, I think, in this piece, where getting hope after periods of difficulty is huge. So for me to be a part of that for people and using sound as a way to help them access that, that's predominantly how I'm working with sound.
Yeah, when you came and saw me, I mean, for anyone who hasn't had a Tibetan singing bowl session. So, you know, my eyes were closed and you're passing these bowls around my head and ringing them. And you're right, it was about hope too. And it was about, here's a musician at my core, stuck in a hospital for a month, not being able to do what I do, which is my whole life. And that was the first interaction again I'd had with some form of music. And, you know, you were singing and ringing these bowls, and then I just started singing, and it was an incredibly safe experience because luckily the nurses I'd got to know and they got to like me because hopefully I'm a likable person, and they gave us that room, which was completely against all protocols of the hospital. They shouldn't have done that. And it really did give me hope. I went back to my bed, you left, and I just sat there going, I'm going to beat this.
Yeah.
Because up until then, it had been a whole month of like every day blood transfusion, and just, sorry, it's not working. And it's like, how did I even get here? The night this went down, I'd just done a job as a sex worker, been paid $2,500, went back to a bar, was drinking at a bar, and the barmaid looked at me and went, you're bleeding from your nose and inside your mouth, and went, what? And I looked in the mirror, blood everywhere. I'm like, am I turned into a zombie? And I jumped in a cab and went to the hospital. So it was just all of a sudden you've got this thing and your whole life's upside down. So it was hope. My question is about, since doing this, and it is about calming the mind. You were really good at doing that. I felt so calm above anything else, the calmest I'd felt in so long. I was able to quiet my mind, which is always racing. Since you've been doing this, today's world is getting faster and faster and faster, and the information is just on and on and on, and short bits here and there. How do you help people whose minds are, has it got increasingly harder to calm people's minds when you do this because of the way the world's spinning so fast and out of control?
I think has it gotten harder? So there's two things here to consider. So one, definitely as a culture, in a modern sense, we've become addicted to information overload. Most people have a varying degree of addiction to their phone. And just getting people to turn their phones off for an hour is healing. Quite honestly, you know, I make jokes about that lots of times. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good and I'm up here doing a whole lot of stuff. I said, but the fact that you've got your phones off for 2 hours, I said, that's the thing that's healing you, because you're not constantly being bombarded with, you know, not just advertising, but content. And it might be exciting and stimulating, but it means that we're retraining our focus to be our attention span to be much shorter. And so then once we want to extend or expand our focus or our attention, it feels a lot harder. But on top of that, the kind of people that I tend to attract are people like me and perhaps like yourself that have racing minds. So I was only just diagnosed with ADHD finally last November. So that explained a lot. Right. But I also tend to attract a lot of other people, and they're like, well, I can't stop my mind. I can't stop my thoughts. And I think that's a lot of the misconception around meditation, this idea that we have to slow down our mind or empty our mind. And for someone who's a neurodiverse person or just highly mentally active person, the concept of having nothing going on in your head is either just seemingly impossible or frightening or boring. So I think, again, that's where the way that I work with sound is that I create a fullness, a different kind of thing that a person can bring their attention to, because those busy brains, they want to be thinking or engaging with something. So rather than expecting that person, okay, here's a candle, here's a cushion, sit cross-legged, sit in silence for 10 minutes, like, fuck off. I do not want to do that. I do not want to do that, right? And so I think because I relate to that, I'm like, that's not fucking relaxing for me. But if you ask me to sit on a cushion with my eyes closed and you're going to play an array of incredible sounds that's going to move around me and over my head and hair, and I'll feel on the back of my neck and a drum beat's coming up from the floor, and meanwhile there's like mantras being sung, I'll be like, yes, give me all of that. Yeah. So by contrast, then our mind is able to be engaged in a different way. So I think that's where I'm able to meet people where they are It's like, well, you don't have to relax in exactly the same way as this other person. So it's understanding, well, what does your brain need to unwind? And silence and emptiness is not going to work well for a lot of people. So, I think that's where the sound and mantra tends to fill the gap, so that it's not about even slowing down. I mean, you do slow down the thoughts. That does happen as you relax the physical body. Because to give you a little bit of science, using particular rhythms and frequencies of sound can have an effect on slowing down our brain waves. So if you know a little bit about brain waves, beta brain waves are, you and I, we're talking, we're highly engaged, we're highly active, beta, active state. Slower, lower brain waves from there is alpha state, which would be lightly relaxed. Maybe you're sitting, chilling out, watching Netflix, or maybe you are actually meditating, or maybe you're walking along the beach, that sort of thing for alpha. Next phase down is theta waves, which is slower again, which is what we call like a dream-like state. So often that's the state of where you're kind of not quite awake, but you're not quite asleep. And then delta waves means you're asleep. So as we are using particular sounds and rhythms, it has a direct impact on how those brainwaves respond. So as a human being's brainwaves slow down, that will slow down your breathing. It will lower your heart rate. It will lower your blood pressure. Actual physiological responses will happen in response to that stimulus. And then by default, your mind will slow down to a point. But to expect it to be totally empty, I think, is not only not achievable, it's also not necessary. And I think that's the thing I love to sort of re-educate people about relaxation and meditation. It's like, you can have stuff going on in your mind, but and be relaxed. But rather than sitting there stressing about your shopping list or the endless to-do list or someone's birthday that you've got to remember and all the other rubbish that runs around in our heads most of the time, if you're lying there instead and you're dreaming or recalling a happy memory from childhood or casting an imaginary future in your mind and creating your next project or whatever. So it's changing the quality of your thinking rather than expecting your thinking to stop or slow down.
Yep.
And I think that's where I'm able to kind of shift people's perceptions of what it is. And then they go, okay, cool. So I can still be like thinking when I'm meditating. Yes, you can.
Yeah, don't
and
be a zombie.
Huge relief. And they're like, oh, maybe I can meditate. I'm like, yeah, you can. But, your brain is not going to be doing the exact same thing as the person next to you, and that's okay.
I find it interesting you're doing this. I think I'm assuming being a singer has helped you do this. I used to teach singing lessons for many years, and one of the main things I used to try and teach people was not only singing, was looking after your body, eating well, sleeping well, doing all these things mentally for you, because I think a lot of people just forget that as a singer, you are the instrument. You are a living, breathing instrument. If you're treating your body like shit, you are going to sing like shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I lost a lot of clients through this because they thought back then it was woo-woo. And I'm like, no, this is not woo-woo. This is you. And it's, you have to care for yourself. You will drive yourself into the ground. Maybe Keith Richards is not a good example of that.
No, he's the exception to all the rules.
But it is important. So has this helped with what you do, understanding vocals and treating yourself well? You said, you had an issue with alcohol and you got through that and worked through that. So,
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, my role as a healer now, it's not just about, singing the mantras and doing the sound. I absolutely make my mental health and my physical health a priority so that my energy is solid, so that I'm feeling good about myself. I'm able to connect to my intuition, but also so that my energy is clean and clear. And of course, so that my voice is at its best. Not that it's about my voice necessarily. That's really just a medium for transmitting the energy and helping people get into that state of being where they feel relaxed. But it's a huge part of it. So listening to you talk before, it reminded me, I just started running workshops on helping other people release their voice. And basically over the course of, 4 or 5 hours, we work towards starting to do an Om chanting circle. But before we can even get to a point where people can physically and emotionally be able to release their voice, I take them through a lot of the basics. Like, you've got to be hydrated. You have to be well rested. Eat good foods. As you just said, your entire body is your instrument, and particularly the area around here. Then the next thing is, okay, if any of these muscles around your jaw, your neck, your even upper back and head are tight, it's going to constrict your throat. And right here, in the larynx, that's where your voice box lives. So if all of these, like literally this is where it's happening. So if all of this is super tight and stressed, then naturally you're not going to be able to release and relax what would be your natural tone. So I spend like an hour guiding people through jaw release techniques and neck release and neck stretches. And then phase 3 is, okay, now that we're looking after our body, now that our surrounding muscles and ligaments are relaxed, now we actually also need to breathe, because if you don't have a good breath underneath your tone, you're not going to be able to sing. And so then there's a whole other bit around helping people understand where they're breathing from before you even get to, releasing the voice. So, yeah, there's so much more to having a relaxed, open tone as a singer than just opening your mouth and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And the great singers know this. Opera singers are kind of like the epitome of, the ultimate vocalist, and they are absolute athletes when it comes to caring for their body and their voice and their tone. But the same applies for, everyday people even who want to connect and release even just their speaking voice. That if you're able to look after your voice in all these other ways, then when you do choose to open your mouth to sing or speak, it's going to be clearer and calmer and healthier for you. Yeah.
I love it. Now, you did a TED Talk X, yeah?
Yes, TEDx.
What was that like? What? Wild?
I'd always wanted to do a TED Talk.
Yeah.
And at the end of last year, I was having terrible back problems and I had to stop working and eventually had surgery. And so it was in that window that this man contacted me to prepare for the TED Talk. And I thought, right, okay, I literally am unable to do anything else. I've got all the time in the world to prepare for this talk. And it was up to me what I wanted to speak about, but his suggestion was, I think it's really amazing the journey you've had from, pop music to sound healing, and I think it'd be great to speak on that. So in the end, I ended up talking about my passion for mantra meditation, and then the second half of the talk was a demonstration of live mantra looping. The punchline is I did very well. Once I hit the stage, I felt extremely relaxed and I was very happy with what I did. The backstory, though, between January and May, I was terrified the whole time. I didn't know how I was going to pull it off. They say you're supposed to, write your speech out and re-edit it. I didn't write any full versions of my speech ever.
Yes.
I did not rehearse, excuse me, until the day before. But I did keep, I did, don't misunderstand me though, I put a huge amount of work in. So in January, I was just doing what we call brain dumps, and I was just kind of writing out a whole lot of stuff. And so I did keep kind of writing down big chunks of inspiration and as I went. But at various points throughout, I kept missing deadlines, and he's like, oh, we need a bio, we need a thing, and we need a video. I didn't get any of them, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Why have I done this? I can't get out of it now. It was just, and even right up to like 5 minutes before I was due to get on stage, I was so nervous. We were all sitting in the audience watching the other speakers. I had to go to the back of the hall with my mala beads and just fucking, I'm there chanting my head. Give me calm, give me calm, give me calm. Like chanting like a motherfucker up the back of the room, trying to walk the walk, right? And calm myself before I'm going on. But 3 minutes before I had to hit the stage, I remembered, and it was one of those downloads in the moments, and this is what happens when you're able to actually effectively meditate. It's not just about relaxing. Often for me, it's about connecting to real insight and that aha thing. And I was standing there and I remembered this great quote from Maya Angelou, which is, and I'm paraphrasing, people won't remember the things that you say, but they'll remember the way you made them feel. And so I opened with that quote. And that kind of just set the tone for my whole talk. And I was like, thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, it was really interesting that what I was speaking about, I actually was actively using right before I went on stage to help myself prepare for, you know, an experience that I'd always wanted to do. I'd always dreamed of doing a TED Talk. So, yeah, one to tick off the bucket list, which was good.
I think it's great. And it's true, you know, if you know your shit,
yeah,
you can sit here and write all this, script all this stuff. And I see, even for myself on YouTube, so many people script their YouTubes. I sit there myself in my lounge room watching TV, talking out aloud in my own house, going through like half an hour of what I'm going to say. And when the camera's on, it just happens. Like with experience, it just happens. You know, if you know your shit. The only challenge
for me, it wasn't about what to say. It was about saying it quickly, because I literally had like 7 minutes. So my issue wasn't about, you know, that I would run out of things to talk about. It was like, how do I condense? Yeah. And so I did 3 rehearsals just to time myself so that I could roughly go, okay, I'm at least going to keep to time, because they're very strict about that. So that was really the only structural bit that I had to rehearse. But in essence, I just had the key points in my head. And as long as I remembered those like key 3 or 4 points, I thought, yeah, I can just bounce off that. You know, I talk to people every day. I've been running events for 10 years. Like this is what I do all the time. So that part of it I wasn't nervous about. But yeah, the 5 months waiting.
Yeah, terrifying. So talking about mantras, now you've started releasing music with mantras, haven't you?
Yes.
And
yeah, I recorded like 5 albums of mantra music in as many years, because I was doing it constantly, weekly, daily, and people kept asking me, oh, how do I find versions of that? I'd like to be able to listen to what I just experienced with you in the person. I'd like to be able to listen at home. Or I would have, particularly through COVID, lots of people who I may never meet physically across Australia and even on the outside of the world, that were looking for ways to relax, and they really enjoyed what I was giving them live. And that really started the journey into recording. I realized I had to put some of these sounds down. And yeah, it started a passion for making mantra and meditation music. But so many people just kept telling me, you know, I struggle to sleep, I struggle to relax, but when I come to your events and listen to your music, it just helps me so much, and I wish you had something recorded. So yeah, I'm always very responsive in the way that I produce what I feel people are looking for and what I think will help them. And I've received lots of amazing feedback over the years, and I know that I hit the mark with that.
You're going to get some more right now, because positive feedback, because right now I'm working on my really first focused, I don't know, soundscape kind of album, but I'm not telling people what it's called or what the project's called. Instead, I've been putting all these hints on YouTube and Facebook, these codes. You've got to decode them. There's QR codes in it, and it leads to another website. And I've finished it, but it's been inspired because after I did this Tibetan singing bowl app on the show, I started going back and listening to your music. I dug up and went, hang on, what's going on? And I started going to sleep to your mantras. And then I was like, hey, I reckon I can do something like this. I have all these projects sitting over here because I love soundscapes and noise and just creating. So I was very inspired by what you do. And you have been helping me get to sleep. It's amazing how all this has come full circle. Like,
it's so good though. Like that's it. And, you know, as a musician, normally you wouldn't want people to say your music puts me to sleep.
No,
but actually,
I know.
But in this particular instance, that's like the highest compliment anyone can give me. Just go, I remember one lady came up to me and I thought she was cross at first. She goes, you know what? I never get to listen. She goes, your album it's not good. And I said, what are you talking about? She goes, well, I never make it past track 3. So I don't know what the rest of the album sounds like. She kept falling asleep. She goes, I'm going to have to start putting it on shuffle. She goes, I assume the rest of the album is good. She goes, but I just can't get past that point. I'm like, well, good.
Perfect.
So, yeah, it's very satisfying when people share that.
So obviously I'm going to, all the links will be in the description for your website and all of that stuff. But can people book you? I know you do in person. You do this in person. Do you still do this online since COVID happened? I'm guessing you were doing that during the lockdowns. Or
yeah.
Do you do sessions online as well?
I haven't been doing live sessions online. I suppose because my in real life schedule is so full. So not only do I run my own business and work full time, but I'm also managing 2 teenagers as well. So it's really about, how many hours are there in a day? But what I have started to do just in the last few months is I do my live. So I offer a 10-minute live mantra meditation every Wednesday, roughly in Melbourne time, usually around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So I've been doing that live on Facebook. So there is an opportunity for people to at least experience it live, but then I will upload those videos to YouTube. So and whenever I'm delivering mantra meditation, I never plan it. I know what mantra I'm singing, but I work with, and for those that are technically minded, an RC505, a Boss RC505
Yes.
5-channel looper.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Heck.
I want one. They're so expensive, though.
And and then I will create, loop, and layer the mantra live. So it's always a journey for me where it's actually like a moving meditation as I'm doing it. But it means that each and every one of those mantra meditation takes is unique, and it's different every time. And for me, that's how it should be, because if I'm fully in that moment, well, that moment is going to be different to next Wednesday's moment, and so on and so forth. So that's running structured classes. I think it might be something that I'll look at later on, but for the moment, the YouTube channel is probably the closest people will get to that. I used to do live mantra classes. We used to call them Monday mantras, and I did that for about 1.5 years through COVID, and that was partly to keep me sane and keep me connected. But then the more of those that I offered, people just kept telling me they were getting so much out of it, and it created an opportunity for me to learn a whole lot more about mantras, because the best way to learn is to teach. So we were kind of all learning together in this online community. So I did really enjoy it, and I would like to get back to it. But for the moment, it's not there. But that's a watch this space situation, I think.
Sure thing. We're going to play a mantra right now. This is White Tara, so you guys get to experience a little bit of it right now. We'll play it now. We'll be back in a minute, and then we'll hear from our sponsor. Let's Oja. This presentation is proudly sponsored by DistroKid. Introducing DistroKid, your ultimate music distribution solution. For just $29.99 a year, DistroKid empowers you to release unlimited tracks on all major music platforms worldwide, including Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, and so many more. Plus, use my link distrokid.com/VIP/Jade and get 7% off your first year. You'll also keep 100% of your royalties and gain access to valuable tools like instant verification on Spotify and detailed revenue analytics. Don't let your music go unheard. Join DistroKid today and take your music career to the next level. Thank you, DistroKid, for sponsoring today's presentation. And once again, I want to thank our sponsor, DistroKid. We love you, DistroKid. Let me do the face. Mwah! I love you, DistroKid. All right, we have our wonderful guest here to round up this interview, Katie Underwood. Now, since all of these, I mean, you've done so much, and I've left heaps out. Oh,
yeah. We can't possibly cover my whole life
Absolutely.
in 2 hours.
and
too much.
I hope my viewers will go and find out more. I always encourage everybody to go and download some music.
Can I just say for the record that my Wikipedia page is not up to date or accurate at all.
I noticed that. I did notice it.
It's just, I don't even know how to fix it. I don't think you're allowed. But just if anyone is looking at that going, that's not even the full story.
I think the best thing to do is pay somebody to go in and edit it for you. That's the best way to do it.
I think I'm going to have to.
Just flick him a 6-pack or something to go in and do. You just give him the script and it's all done.
I think, yeah.
So let's come around to 2020. Bardot re-release music, and then you're all of a sudden back on television and doing the rounds, saying hello, Bardot, and it's all come up again. What was the process of all that happening?
Well, it was 2020 was the 20th anniversary.
Right.
So it was natural for us to want to try and mark the occasion in some way. So when I'm talking about the band now, of course, it was just the 4 remaining members because Sophie Monk's moved on to other TV projects and radio projects. And although we did invite her in, she just wasn't interested in coming back to it, and that's okay. So the remaining 4 of us tried to get something, physical happening, but again, logistics got in the way. So the closest we got was to do a few I don't know, there was all those apps where people would do a recording and then sing with other people remotely. And so we did a few versions of that. I think myself, Belinda and Tiffany. So we got as close as the trio, did a few interviews. But the main thing that really happened, and this is probably not as exciting for other people as it was for us, is that we finally got control of our masters from the Bardot era.
Oh, that's amazing.
Which is mammoth. So for those that don't know what that means, most of the income people get from online music streaming is paid to the owners of the recordings. So that's different from the people who write the songs. It's different from the people who record the songs. And then you've got royalties for people who own the actual recording. So if you're an independent artist like myself, for my New Age catalogue, I've both written the songs, performed the songs, and I own the masters. So they earn good royalties for me. But for the average pop artist who hasn't written it, maybe they performed it, but they certainly don't own the masters. There's no money in it. And we didn't get any money from those years. So to finally have control of all of the Bardot recordings and to actually finally be getting payment for our performances on those recordings was massive. So that was really the biggest thing that happened for us behind the scenes. So yeah, when the Bardot thing didn't kind of come together, it took about another year, and Belinda and I were still quite nostalgic about, making more music and long story short, it's like, well, would it be weird if just the 2 of us did something? And I said, Belinda, we're in our 40s. Do we give a fuck? What people think? Let's just do it. And she's like, okay. So that's pretty much how Cabell was created. Partly in response to the fans who were very disappointed that Bardot didn't reform and that we didn't do new music. And we knew the kind of style of music that they were hoping for. So Belinda's like, Belinda and me were very pragmatic in a sense. We're both Capricorns. We're like, give the people what they want.
Yeah.
People want pop music. We can give them pop music. So again, as I mentioned earlier in this, although pop music isn't my favorite genre, when it's the right song and it's done well, I enjoy it. And so, yeah, Belinda and I have released independently 4 singles under the Cabell banner. It's a total passion project, which is translation for self-funded and underfunded.
The only way to go.
So we don't
days.
make money from it. It's really just something that we do because we like being creative and we love working together, and we know that the fans love it. So yeah, that was really the Cabell thing. But it was great to work with Belinda again and to continue to be connected with her musically and in life. Yeah.
You two look great together. You perform great together. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And, you know,
Yeah, so much fun.
I love that you're an independent artist, because here on this channel, you know, DistroKid's my sponsor. DistroKid's, you know, about releasing your own music and doing all that stuff. I mean, I've been using them for 2015 or whatever, since I moved from one of the other brands that was ripping me off. And, I mean, you know, a lot of us don't make money doing our own music, but I always say it's one of the features I think of DistroKid is that I can open up Apple Music or Spotify any time of the day and go, there's my music right next to Mariah Carey, Metallica, every goddamn band. I'm a pop star. I don't give a shit what you say. I'm there. It's worth $20 a year. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not going to become rich from it. But like, if you're in making music to make money anyway these days, I don't know, you should be loving it. That's the more important thing.
Don't get me wrong. I have about 70 songs, I think, all up across multiple genres, currently streaming on all platforms. And it does form probably about 15% of my entire income is just coming from passive streaming. So it's not a small...
Wow.
So I do make a fair amount of money, considering that I am an independent artist.
That's awesome.
And look, one of the things about streaming is it's a slow burn too.
Yeah.
Because, and particularly in New Age, the people that listen to my music just continues to slowly expand and increase over time, particularly when people are listening to my songs, you know, every night to go to sleep. So it creates a real loyalty. I mean, I myself have been listening to like the same music for years to go to sleep. I've trained myself to go to sleep to this guy called Stephen Halpern. And it's just like every night without fail. That's what I listen to because that's what works. So, you know, I get that. And so for people that do that, they become, you know, lifelong fans of your music for different reasons. So, yeah. So being able to connect with companies like DistroKid and others, it makes it possible for anyone to have their music online. And that's what's great about it.
Now, the recent single, the 4th single is called 1 in a Million. Was that released this year?
Yeah.
I'll put a direct link to that in the description, just like all the information today. So, you know, everything's going to be in there. The song whip link to take you to all the music, Bardot's music, everything. I've got all that prepared and ready to go. So that's in the description, folks. We're at the end of the show. We're going to go out today and play Feel So Good, but I have a last question that I hit everybody with. Okay. I'm going to say it's a real bum burner. It's a really hard question. It's, if you were giving advice to somebody just starting out, being creative, making music, whatever it is, when would you say is the best time for them to start?
Today. Start today.
Correct.
That's easy. Just whatever. It's never too late. It's never too early. Just today. That's when you start.
You know, I started doing that question for this very reason, because I just want to drum home in everybody's head, every interview. Now. What are you waiting for?
Like,
you know,
it's never too young to start. You're never too old to start.
Absolutely.
Just the moment you think, I want to do this thing, do it.
Yeah.
We're here for a good time, not a long time. So, music's a huge part of that. So, today is always the time.
Fantastic. Well, we're at the end. We're going to go out and play Feel So Good. Firstly, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with me today. For also, back in 2015, that moment that, you know, I'll never forget it. It just, it means so much, so much. And it's so nice to connect with you again and get to tell you this afterwards and let you know I'm still going. It's going to take a lot more than that to beat me down. And thank you for all you do for, you know, healing people. That takes a lot. I think that's very courageous thing to give so much of yourself to invest in human beings. We look at the world these days and the world's a mess. And to know there's still people out there who care enough.
Yeah.
You have to care, you know, to do this kind of thing. So thank you for that. And thank you for creating beautiful music as well.
It's always a joy.
All right. Folks, links in the description. Go and sub up this amazing woman. She is so talented. She's so caring, so giving. Go and do all the things. Go and go to her website. Just go do all the things or I'll come after you. All right? So tell us before we go. So we're going to play Feels So Good. I can't remember which one we decided on. The 8-minute one. That was the one.
Yeah, so this was a remix done by Anthony Papa and Jamie Stevens. Feel So Good was an original track that I wrote, but their remix was amazing. But the film clip is something that I actually created and put together myself, so I'm quite proud of it. So enjoy.
Awesome. My mic's good. Thank you so much. All right, folks, remember, I'm going to do the catchphrases that you all know me to say. Remember, my friends, do the things that make you happy. Mistakes make you better, and we'll all rise together. And whatever you do, stay awake. All right, let's ode. See you later.
good.